Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for yet more dedicated legacy action. Today, breakfast is on the menu, Cephalid Breakfast. We are playing the combo deck known as Cephalid Breakfast, which attempts to assemble the card Cephalid Illusionist with either Shuko or Nomads in Core. Either of these cards allow you to target Cephalid Illusionist as many times as you like on a single turn. What this does is mill your whole library, because every time you target the Illusionist, you mill 3 cards. So once your library has been milled, these Narcomoebas will pop out of the graveyard and into play. Once these are in play, you can then sacrifice them to Dread Return to bring back your Thassa's Oracle. And then Thassa's Oracle's trigger ability will win you the game. So relatively straightforward. This one is also quite good against endurances, because if you've got the Nomads in Core, you can mill with Cephalid Illusionist in response to a... So after the endurance has come down, you can just mill again, or if they try and cast the endurance after your Thassa's Oracle is already in play, then you can just mill in response. So it's very hard for endurance to mess up if you have the Nomads in Core. Obviously Shuko is sorcery speed, so they have options there. Also with this deck we have a slight dupe to a beatdown plan with Cauldron Complete off of a Stoneforge Mystic, but Stoneforge Mystic is also in there because it tutors for Shuko. But we can go into the beatdown plan if that's necessary. We also have 3 Urza's Saga to facilitate the beatdown plan, which also gets Shuko at the end of our beatdown strategy. We have Teferi Time Raveler here, which is just a good card to bounce things with, as well as making it so our opponent can't interact with us when we're trying to combo off. We do have a single Cabal Therapy in our deck, which might be needed for if the Dread Return is in our hand when we mill our whole library. We may need to target ourselves with the Cabal Therapy if we have a spare creature, which we should do. It should be the Cephalid Illusionist, because we should have the 3 Narcomoebas, so we can target ourselves, put the Dread Return in the bin, and then buy back our guy. We are very much the dedicated version of this deck combo-wise. We have 2 Step-Throughs, which has Wizard Cycling, so just for 2 mana you can discard this and tutor up your Cephalid Illusionist. There's no other like fun, exciting wizards to get. It's very much dedicated to do its thing. This is a core Nomad Soldier, so that's not getting found anytime soon. So we've got the classic cantrips to piece it together, and Force of Will and Dazes to protect us when we're going off. That's pretty much it. We are running 2 Underground Seas in case we need to cast some of these spells, but also this powers up our Prismatic Ending from the sideboard. So let's have a quick look at this sideboard. We've got 6 removal spells. It's kind of wild to me that these are just in the sideboard, but I suppose the idea is that we're the dedicated combo deck game 1, and then we can adjust as we see fit with these. A couple of Blue Blasts, pretty standard for any blue deck these days, whether you're hitting Expressive Iteration or something out of the Blood Moon decks, or just hitting a Dragon's Rage Channeler. These are fine. And then we've got a couple of Flusterstorms, and then another Hydroblast to round out the Blue Blast count. So the Flusterstorms are pretty self-explanatory. If you need to fight a counter war on your turn and you don't have to ferry, you can use this. This also helps you interact with Storm decks. We have 2 Force of Negation for opposing combos that are faster than us, or things that can put down a lock piece that will stop us in a way that is going to be problematic for us, so we can board these in. And we have a couple of extractions for Graveyard Hate. That's more or less the deck. Now, I've not played Cephalid Breakfast before, but I remember it from 15 years ago, whenever people were playing it last. And it was quite a fun one back then. Nowadays, the Thassa's Oracle kill is much cleaner than what people used to do with it. But here we are, and I'm going to give this a go, and I hope you all enjoy watching me stumble through playing it. But before we get into a league, if I could just say, if you want to scroll down and hit that subscribe button, it doesn't cost you a penny and it really helps me out. It's the best way of getting my channel a bit of attention there. Alright, let's jump into a league. Alright, so this is our opening hand for round 1. We have access to the combo via Illusionist and Stoneforge Mystic. We have a Force of Will for protection, as well as a Teferi Time Raveler. Now, if we pitch a Narcomoeba to the Force of Will, our opponent's going to know something is up. But I think we have to keep this hand because it looks pretty good to me. Prismatic Vista. That suggests to me that our opponent is on a relatively fair deck. So I think we'll lead out with the basic island and pass a turn. I think we follow up with the Stoneforge. Or do we follow up with the Illusionist? It's hard to say with the correct players here. So I think we want to get a Plains here. So we have a choice. We can either play out the Illusionist, which if they kill, we can then go and get another one, or we can play out the Stoneforge, which might be the more difficult one. So the Daze isn't really live here as defense. It's a little bit tricky. I think because we have the step through, I want to play the Illusionist this turn. I could be wrong. Okay, that firmly nails our colours onto the mask with what we're playing though, which might impact our opponent's decisions in terms of brainstorms. An end of turn cracking prismatic risk. This could be a source to plowshares. Sure. So what do we find? A Cephalid Illusionist, a Daze, a Teferi. Okay. Our opponent did not have a second mana there. So we can play this one out. I think this turn we try the Stoneforge out. We've got the Shugo coming in with the Saga already. So I think we can get the Cauldron here. So we already have our Wizards and our Shuko sewn up here. So we may as well try and tax their resources with the Cauldron complete here, because this will force an answer quite quickly. And then when they finish doing that, we can just jam our combo. Alternatively, we can Teferi, but it'd be quite nice to get a little bit of value off the Teferi first. So if our opponent taps down in a way that we can cast the Teferi with a Daze back up, that'd be really nice. Okay, so that, cracking their Flood Strand. So this could be a prismatic ending on our Stoneforge Mystic, which we can Daze. Just the source to plowshares. We do not want to Daze this one. We'll just let that go. And then they're following up with a Ponder. So we can play the Teferi with Daze. Like, we're not in a super hurry to get this game won. So we could just play an Urza Saga game here. I think our best bet here is to play the Teferi, because that's going to be very difficult for our opponent to answer if it gets into play. The chance of them being able to deal 1 damage to our Teferi is quite low. So I think we are incentivized to make sure we at least get a card, because they could prismatic ending this. So let's just cycle that for a card. Because whether they deal this 1 damage or whether they deal it 5 damage, it's not going to be damage that kills it. It's going to be a white spell. So I think it's best to get the value. Ooh, a Monastery Mentor. That's interesting. Pick a little fight here. Okay, that went through. Interesting. Get the Shuko. We'll plus this. We will step through using this mana. We'll go and get Cephalid Illusionist. We'll play out this. And then we can ponder whenever we want because of Teferi. We need our things to survive this turn phase. So Shuko could be prismatic ending here, which would be annoying. But that's what our counter spells are hard counters because of Teferi. They can't interact with our counter spells. So I think this is worth doing. Our opponent just tapped out for the Mentor last turn. So if they can't get this Teferi off the board any other way, that would be how I'd assume that they'd play. So we have a Brainstorm here. I'm going to cast this Ponder in response. So we have a Daze in our hand. So we would like the Daze in our hand. Put Brainstorm, Shuko. This way, if they have any spell here, we can Daze it. And this is equip 0, so we can still go off next turn even if we do Daze. Ponder, that's fine. Our counter spells cannot be interacted with on the stack. Okay, so we got the win there. Excellent. So our opponent's playing like a blue-white control deck with Mentors. Interesting. They do have the Monastery Mentors, which is something we might be interested in trying to beat. The Flusterstorms feel like they'll be good for us trying to win a little counter war to stick our combo. And I feel we probably want Plows for the Mentor, because the Mentor is just going to be a lot of hassle for us to deal with. Now, I don't know. I think we probably board out Dazes here, right? Especially on the draw. So that seems relatively free. Now it's a case of what do we cut here. Is 3 Swords to Plowshares too many? Do we only really want 2? It's certainly a possibility. If you have 2, that's a pretty clean 4 and 4. Yeah, let's give it a go like this, because I'm not really sure how much of my combo I can realistically take out here. We could always trim Ponders, which sounds weird, but the rest of our deck is kind of essential glue that can't go anywhere, and obviously Teferi is excellent in this matchup. So I feel this game is going to be more about sticking a Teferi and then just being able to do our thing. So let's submit like this. This hand has the tools to sculpt for a longer game, as well as having the removal for the one threat that we're worried about. So I think we can keep this one. Island Ponder, right? Always keep Island Ponder. That's right. So our opponent started on these, so let's ponder. That's one of our pieces. We definitely don't want the Cauldron, so we'll put these back in this order. And then we can shuffle away the Cauldron next turn. So we're not playing an Ezra Saga next turn, because we really don't want that Cauldron. So we'll pick this one up. And then we'll say go. So what we can do is we can brainstorm here, but our hand is kind of what we want, to be honest. So we're not really brainstorming for anything. Like if we brainstorm, what from this hand do we want to put away when our opponent is able to untap into a Monastery Mentor? I don't think we want to be messing around with that. So they might just be going straight for a Mentor here. No, they're just cracking. So we'll crack now and shuffle away. I'm not expecting something like a Stifle or anything from our opponent, but I would not be surprised to see back to basics in their deck, which is why I'm getting the planes here. Okay, so now I think we play out the Saga, and we can use the Saga to go and get our Shuko in a few turns. We can also just play an Urza Saga game and force them to do something about our uncounterable threats here, which will soak up the removal that can be used on Cephalid Illusionist later. So I'm also not missing any land drops, and neither is our opponent, which is kind of where we both want to be. This could be an Uro turn. A Monastery Mentor. Interesting. I think we let this resolve. And then they're casting an Explosives for 0. In this turn we try and hit the Mentor. We have a Flusterstorm. I suspect the only counter spells in their deck really are going to be things like Flusterstorm and Force of Will. So they get this thing that can blow up all our tokens. I don't think we mind about this. The Teferi is a very good one. Yeah. Again, we don't really need any help with our hand right now. I think we just play out lands and we force them to use some mana on their Engineering Explosives. So we could have played the Teferi that turn and then tried to, if this sticks, we can then do it on our next turn, but they have the Monk token, so they have a way of pressuring our Teferi. This is potentially a problem. How do I want to respond to a Narset? I think this is worth counterspelling. I'll get rid of this Brainstorm. We can fight over it with a Flusterstorm if we want to, and then we can just stick a Teferi afterwards. Spell Pierce. I'm going to pick the fight. Same targets. So the Spell Pierce is definitely getting countered, but they could have a Force of Will for our Force of Will. But that would basically leave them without cards, and they'd be relying on the Narset. Sure, so that was quite an expensive fight for us. Okay, so I think we just want another island here. And we're going to make an Urza Saga construct. And we untap. So our opponent has 3 cards in hand. We have a Teferi Time Raveler. So we tap this for mana, and then we go tutoring with this. This gets us Shuko. And then we play this out. Then we cast this, and our opponent has to have a spell for this. Okay, they don't have a spell for this, so our opponent will not be able to interact with us, so we can just win the game. Alright. Are they going to make us go through the motions or not? Let's see. Okay, they're not going to make us go through the motions. Excellent. So we got our first game in ever with Cephalid Breakfast, and we came away with a win. I felt I had two different paths that game, so I could have put the Teferi down rather than making the construct on that turn. But I feel that when they have a creature on the board, it's best to do something to at least have blockers, because if I play my Teferi and they play a few spells, they can just get through and kill the Teferi anyway. Alternatively, we could try and play the Teferi and bounce the Monk, which is also fine. So I think I had two different paths there. I probably played the slightly more conservative line here, but I knew I had the mana to then play Teferi and do our combo. So, all right, on to round two. So this opening hand, we have a Dread Return we don't want. We do have a way of shuffling away. We don't really have a huge else amount going on. Is Urza's Saga enough to keep this together? Feels like we need... Like, this is half of our combo, to be fair. The Teferi is a useful tool. But basically, this hand doesn't do anything until turn 2. I think we should mulligan. Because we can't really put this back. We can put this back on turn 1, I suppose. But then we won't be able to play the Urza's Saga and start taking out. So I think we should just mulligan, because of the way this lines up is not great for us. Now this is a one lander, so I don't think we can keep this. And this is a no lander, and I wish I kept the first hand, as is tradition. Okay, so we can keep this one. So the Narcomoeba goes. I think we have to... This is our combo here, basically, these three cards. So we need to keep the other lands. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So does that mean we have to put back all three of these? It's not great, but it's the situation we're in. Basically, we're going to get absolutely ruined by Blood Moon. So I'm inclined to play this one out first. So I have more chance of putting the Teferi into play before we start doing our thing. Underground Sea, Tropical Island, Personal Tutor. So our opponent's playing like a Bug Doomsday Shell. Yep, so there's the Doomsday. So now we're really incentivized to try and stop what our opponent is doing somehow. So next time they cast Doomsday. So if we draw our Shuko or our Nomads, we can win next turn. But the chances are they're going to... Okay, so they're going to have some spare mana left over, so they might be able to do a win the game this turn pile. Okay, our opponent has finished searching, so let's have a little look at their pile. Can't see what the green is for. Could just be sideboard cards. Okay. So there's a marginal chance that we can thin our library a little bit by sacrificing this. So I think we just get another Tundra here. Okay, so this isn't ideal for us. We need our opponent to not win the game on their turn after they played Doomsday. That's a bit of a big ask. Let's try the Teferi out though. This could scare them into pitching like a blue card to a force, which might slow down their pile by a turn, giving us a chance to draw our combo piece. Veil of Summer. Okay, so this is what their green is for, and this is so they have a redraw to get through their deck quicker. I think we have to return no permanents and try and draw a Force of Will. We did not draw a Force of Will. So we are likely in trouble here. Our opponent's got 3 cards left in their library. Okay, so they're going to have 0 cards. They're going to have 2 cards left in their library and then draw a card, 1 card left. So they can just... Okay. So there's the Cavern and there's the Thassa's Oracle. Yeah. The Thassa's Oracle mirror. Sure, we will concede this game. So, what do I want against Doomsday? These Force of Negations look pretty good to me. Sacred Extraction can mess with their pile. The Flusterstorm is another counter spell, so I don't hate that. These things don't seem good. If they're running green, they might be like having a duke to Uro. I think we can just outrace the Uro at the end of the day. So basically, we just want to keep maximum counter spells. So if we're boarding these 4 counterspells in, what are we getting rid of? That is the tricky one. Like, presumably we have to trim on something. The Stoneforge Mystic represents a threat that, if they half their life total, can just clock them out of the game. So I think I quite like the Stoneforge Cauldron package still. If we're less about trying to win the game immediately, I suppose we can board out these because they're a bit slow. Because you know, we just need to stop our opponent winning the game, right? So this is something we can bin off. And then it's a case of, I think, either we're trimming some other pieces or we're just cutting ponders because we already have enough pieces in our deck now. So pretty much we've got very little air in our deck at this point, apart from the Narcomoebas, really. But we have to keep the Narcomoebas. So I think we'll try it like this. I'm sure Cephalid Breakfast experts are looking at me going, what are you doing? But I think this is all right. The surgical extraction, I don't think we want the surgicals here. They can shuffle our opponent's pile, but from my experience playing a little bit of Doomsday, that's not the end of the world. It can maybe buy you 1 turn, whereas all these other things are things that are going to win us the game, hopefully, or stop what they're doing altogether. We could always cut the 2 ponders for surgicals, but if these are stuck in our hand, they're going to look bad, and we'd rather have the blue cards. So I'm going to submit like this. This hand has 1 counter spell on both halves of this combo, but the counter spell is not a great one, so I think I'm going to mulligan this. Okay, so this hand just needs an island, and we'll put this on the bottom because it's the one we don't want, and we'll say done. So I think we do play this out because this can do a little bit of damage, but also it means if we draw an island we can kill them next turn, and this might just be a straight up race. Okay, our opponent's cracking their polluted delta, which makes me think we might be getting Thoughtseized here. A dark ritual. Interesting. We definitely try and counterspell this. Alright. Do we draw an island? We did draw an island. Do we get to combo them off now? A cycling for street races could be looking for a Force of Will. We just do that. That's a quicker way of doing it, isn't it? Alright. So we're milling our whole library here. So we've got 23 cards. 20, 17. And there's Narcomoeba. Yes, we would like the Narcomoeba here. So let's pop our graveyard out first here. We have a Cabal Therapy that we can fire off now. So I think we do that now. Sacrificing this Narcomoeba. Force of Will. Seems unlikely that they would... Okay, so definitely don't have it. Sure. So now we can just finish doing our thing until our library is empty. Okay, we don't have any more cards there. So where is our Dread Return? Okay, yeah. So they've seen the combo there. All right. So we got another look at our opponent's hand, and we didn't see anything unexpected there either. So I think I'm happy to just go again with this and submit. So we've got 2 parts of 1 half our combo, and we got multiple dazes. We have no turn 1 interaction here. I don't know if we have time for this hand to work. I think we should mulligan this. This is a much better hand. We can keep this one. I think so. We have a brainstorm. I think if we put back one of the brainstorms, then we have double daze, and we can daze and then pitch 1 to Force of Will. Let's see how we do. We're casting a Duress, so this has to hit us. So it's going to take our Force of Will, I suspect. Could take the brainstorm and sort of leave our hand sort of not really going anywhere. Yeah, okay. So took the brainstorm. Interesting. So they're probably just settling in for a slower game here. Unless they have ways of dealing with what's in our hand. Tropical Island. A Preordain. Sure. So our opponent is tapped off of green for their Veil of Summer, which I assume is still in their deck. Where did they put those cards? 2 top, 0 bottom. So that's not great for us. So play this thing they know about. And we'll say go. So we can hard cast the Daze as well as Force of Will. We can pitch cast the Force of Will and hard cast the Daze. And they might suspect that we have other blue cards now. So they're going to try and play around double Daze Force of Will here. Now, if they have a Veil of Summer, that becomes an interesting one for us. No action. It's going to keep staring at one another. We're definitely keeping all these fetch lands for the purposes of brainstorm shuffles. So we're going to play the fetch land rather than the sea. A brainstorm. Sure, I don't think we can fight over brainstorms just yet. At some point we might draw into things that win us the game. But when that's going to be, I can't say. Opponent's played another land. And they passed the 10. Sure. And there's the Saga. Okay, this gives us something to do. Which is nice. It can find our combo piece. But it can also give us some threats to attack with. Opponent's cracking their fetch. Okay, so they're heavier in the green than I originally thought, because they played a Bayou and a Trop here. Veil of Summer. So they don't know about the second Force of Will. If they have a second Veil of Summer, then we're in trouble here. They're pitching Force of Will to stop our Veil of Summer counter spell. I think we let this go and hope that they don't have that they do a pass the turn pile when they cast Doomsday. Okay, so they've got another land. And there's a Doomsday that we can't counter. Okay, so finish resolving their pile. We got the Lion's Eye Diamond isn't in there. 2 Veil of Summers are exiled. Consider no ideas unbound in there, so they could have that. Alright. That's a very good card for us to draw at this point. A brainstorm. So I think we are incentivized to counter every spell that we can here. This is probably the last turn we get, so I think we're going to crack these now in the hopes that we can draw. So this gives us a between like 0 and 1% chance more likely of drawing our Cephalid dude. Ooh, Cabal Therapy is interesting. So if we make a guy, we can't cast our thing. So I think we just activate this and say, okay, get this, equip on this guy. And then, so what's in there? So I think we attack first. And we hit our opponent with a Cabal Therapy here. So you have to name a non-land card. So what we got here, Lotus Petal, 2, 3 Lotus Petals, they don't always run the 4. Force of Will, 1, 2. So it's Brainstorm, Ponder. So how many Ponders you got here? 1, 2, 2 Ponders, 3 Ponders, 4 Ponders. Brainstorms is 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's none of those. Street Race, I don't think. Street Race there. There's no Edge of Autumn, but that's probably in their pile. So we're kind of trying to name a thing that they started off with. I think we name the Thassa's Oracle, because if that's in there, we can just get them. Force of Will. Okay. I don't think we care about that one. So we're holding up the Force of Negation now. Edge of Autumn. We can't do anything about that. 2 cards in library. Thassa's Oracle. Now this is one that we can't counter with Force of Negation. So we should have used the Force of Negation before. Yeah, we made a mistake using the Force of Will on the Brainstorm instead of the Force of Negation there. But I wanted to hold this up because I could hard cast it. But unfortunately that is not the case. Alright, on to... So there's a pretty important learning mistake there. I should have kept the more flexible one for... Although, to be fair, I couldn't cast this... If this was a Force of Will, then I wouldn't have been able to cast it anyway. So I don't think that's necessarily a play mistake there. Like, I kept the thing that I could cast. So I'm okay with that. All right, let's go on to round 3. So we're on the draw. I don't hate this hand. Like, the Narcomoeba is just going to get pitched to a Force of Will, and we've basically got Island Ponder into Teferi later. We're a little bit ways off of having our combo available to us, though. We do have all these fetch lands to help pitch to Brainstorms. So I think we keep this one, but I could be wrong. A black fetch land. This could be the Epic Storm. That runs Verdant Catacombs. Okay. Island Ponder. Show us some combo pieces. This, if they Veil of Summon this, they're almost certainly playing the Epic Storm. Okay. Entomb. No Entomb for you. It's always best to hit the Entomb because it means they have to find another way of putting creatures in their bin. So we have a Daze into Stoneforge Mystic, potentially. I don't hate that. So gives us a little bit of interaction if we need it. And then we can try and get our Stoneforge online and maybe just Cauldron Beatdown for this game. So I think we do Daze this one. Like, our objective here is to stop them putting creatures in their graveyard. So we don't want the next card down after this, so we're going to play a fetch hand out this time. So we can shuffle away the other card. Like, we're a little bit slow here, but we've got rid of 2 of their ways of putting things in the graveyard. So they don't have many left. Well, that's the hope at least. I guess we'll get planes. This might signal to them that they can play without worrying about days. Okay, sure. So I should have waited to end of turn to do this. Alright, so they have an Archon of Cruelty. That's something we do not want any part of. So if they can bring back this Archon of Cruelty, it's just going to kill our Stoneforge Mystic here. So we play the Stoneforge out, and we go and get the Shuko. Because that gives us the most ways of just winning the game. I don't think this guy is going to survive another turn. What we can do is we can Teferi Time Raveler and bounce their Archon of Cruelty if they play it, and we've got plenty of things to pitch in our hand. To the discard trigger if they do get this guy out. Unmask. Okay, so we're probably losing our Teferi here. We could lose the Shuko if they're worried about us ripping it on the top. Okay, so they're more worried about us ripping off the top. Exhume. So we're going to lose our Stoneforge Mystic. Oh no, they've got the Grizzlebrand in there as well. Okay, I didn't even see the Grizzlebrand. Okay, we are done, I think. We're going to lose a Teferi from another discard spell. And our opponent is going to just get us pretty quick time with the Grizzlebrand. There's the Grief. So here goes our Teferi. Goodbye, Teferi. So our opponent doesn't need to do anything now. They can wait till next turn and then draw another 7. Well, if they can reanimate another guy here. And they're doing A-OK. Exhume. Sure. I think we are donezo's. So this is 13, 14, 15, 16. So this is lethal on the next turn. So we would need to rip another Teferi to survive. And that's not even good enough necessarily. Surviving is very different from winning the game. 2 more Grizzlebrands. So bouncing Grizzlebrand isn't going to do anything. We have to bounce the Archon because this represents 9 damage next turn. Draw a Narcomoeba. Sure, we will concede the game. Alright, on to sideboarding. We need to Flusterstorm things our opponent does, and Force of Negation things our opponent does, and Surgically Extract things he does. So we could board in Swords to Plowshares, but that's sort of trying to get the horse after it's already bolted, really. We can't... With this is our line of defense. Like, these would just be like a let's hope that works type thing. So I think, again, we're probably trimming on the step-throughs here. And then I suppose it should be Ponders. We don't have the time to dig for the cards that we're doing here. See, Brainstorm is better than Ponder because it fixes our hand if our hand isn't good, whereas the Ponder is just something that we can cast early on. So this might seem a little weird, but I think this is right. We just want maximum counter spells and interaction here. So we're going to submit like this. This is an interesting one. We're definitely keeping this, but we have options. We can try and find a counter spell on turn 1. Or we can just play the Nomads into the Illusionist and try and kill them on turn 2. That is a difficult choice. Because if we cast a Brainstorm and miss, then we're in bad shape. We've got quite a few hits though. So we've got what? 4 days, 4 Force of Will, 2 Force of Negation, and 2 Surgical Extractions. So that's 12 in 53. So that's like a 1 in 4 chance, roughly. And this only sees 3 cards. Our opponent kept on 7. So we have to assume they have a turn 1 here. Right? They have to have a turn 1 if they're keeping on 7. Okay, let's cast a Brainstorm. Yikes. Yeah, this is what I was afraid of. Like, we could have done that in response to something instead. But I think we should have just cast the Nomads here. Because this way, if they turn 1 put stuff in the graveyard and turn 2 get us, then... Yeah, so if we'd have cast the Nomads on turn 1, we win the game. So that's pretty annoying. So this turn... We know one of the cards on top of our library. So we can either Brainstorm, Shuffle, or Shuffle, Brainstorm. Shuffle, Brainstorm lets us see the most cards. So I think we do that. Entomb. And if we find another Brainstorm, the Shuffle is better afterwards. I think we have to see the maximum number of cards this turn. And let's get Chandra here. Let's have a look. Okay. This is a pretty hard hand for them to pick apart, at least. So I think we put Stoneforge and then the Shuko on top. So this way they'll pick apart our Nomads and Core. So we have the Surgical Extraction for when they try and reanimate here, which hopefully will be good enough. A Dark Ritual, sure. Our Faith is Looting, sure. So they can put a second creature in and then cast an Exhume, and I don't really get to interact with an Exhume. I can stop them getting the worst creature, and that's still fine for us then. Right, because we've got spare. Okay. This is fine. The Coffin Purge is interesting. Animate Dead. So we get rid of the Grizzlebrand here. They do still have black mana for Coffin Purge, which... okay, so they're Coffin Purging themselves rather than trying to stop my combo. Interesting. I can't really win through the Coffin Purge, I don't think. There's probably a way. I would need to have a better understanding of the deck, I think. So we play this. We can get ourselves an island. White mana. Nomads. Blue. Blue. On this guy. Always yield. Always yield. Okay, so we're just milling our whole deck out now. You're making us go through it. Okay, so because you have spare ones, the Thassa's Oracle, the Dread Return's already in there. So I don't think the... Okay, they're just scooping. I was trying to work out if I needed to Cabal Therapy, but whilst either the Dread Return or the... yeah, so either the Dread Return or the Thassa's Oracle's in there, then if we Cabal Therapy and they have another Coffin Purge, then it doesn't matter. They can still ruin our combo for us. So maybe we should have kept an eye on that a bit more and looked for when the Cabal Therapy came up, which obviously hasn't come up yet, but... Okay. It worked that time, so let's try it again. I don't think we can keep the Plains 2 dead cards Illusionist hand here, so we have to mulligan. Our opponent mulligan to 6 cards as well. I don't think I can keep this hand though. It's very slow. Well, it doesn't really do anything. It's like Stoneforge Mystic is not going to be good enough. We have a Daze. So that we have a turn 2 play. I don't think we can keep this. We have to mulligan again. Yikes. No mana sources. I think we're better off keeping this and trying to draw land than we are... hold on, we want to get rid of the Cabal Therapy. We want to keep one of these because they're blue. Which means we probably... This does get the other half of our combo though, doesn't it? But this will find us lands. Interesting. I think we have to keep the blue card. So we are certainly not favoured in this matchup right now. We've kept a no lander, so that's not a great start. Thoughtseize. Oh no, our opponent gets to see our terrible one lander. Oh, no lander, sorry. Yeah, so our Force of Will is gone. We've drawn another one though, so we might be able to keep playing this game. A Dark Ritual, sure. And Entomb. Goodbye, Narcomoeba. Jellyfish and squids together at last. In Narcomoeba Cephalid Illusionist deck. Okay, a land here, please. Yikes. Hopefully our opponent is going to be like a ways off of putting anything else into their bin. But they've got the Underground Sea, which means they've also got Show and Tells in their deck. Okay, so this keeps us alive, potentially. But we kept a no land in a blue-white deck. That doesn't happen very often. Another Brainstorm. So we've certainly got tools to pitch here. Okay, so we have the combo sewn up. We just have no lands. This is a weird one. Drawing a Tundra would be nice. I'm about going to draw Plains first. Okay. So, I think, because we already have the one spell here, I think we just go and get the Tundra and put the Nomads into play. So we can draw a land and just win the game next turn. If not, we can start doing Brainstorms with potential fetch land shenanigans. And we do have a counter spell here. Ooh, we're getting a turn. Okay, so this turn we will cast a Brainstorm. Happy to see you, lands. Go back to these, and then I don't think we're going to need this as a Saga necessarily, so I think we just play out the Tundra here. And I don't think our opponent has any random flash threats here, so I think we can just attack for one. You never know. So we have the win next turn, provided our opponent doesn't have anything to interact with us. Unmask. Targeting me. This is interesting. I think we do force this one. And we can pitch the Teferi here. So this might signal to them that I have another counterspell. We do not have another counterspell. Faithless Looting. Sure. I think we're better off trying to hit a Daze off of the one extra card if we need to, but we can also hide the Illusionist if they use any more discard spells. Okay, so there's a Grizzlebrand there. This could be a challenging one to puzzle through here. And Animate Dead. So if we have one card, we'd have to pitch the Illusionist. I think we are casting this Brainstorm anyway, so we should cast it now. And we have the Force of Will here. But we have to pitch the Illusionist to use it. Because if we pitch the Thassa's Oracle, we don't have a second Thassa's Oracle, so we just lose the game there. So the question is, if I Force of Will this, what does the rest of this game look like when they already have a creature in their graveyard? So if I'd have done this, oh, this is tricky. So do I think my opponent can interact with my Nomads? If I don't think my opponent can interact with my Nomads, then I put this on top and then I just draw it and go for the win. If I Force of Will this, our opponent's got Faithless Looting and we're drawing nothing here. So I think we put back the Thassa's Oracle and the Cephalid Illusionist and try and win next turn. Because if we pitch the Illusionist, I don't think we can win before they get to kill us. So the thing that beats us here is an Archon of Cruelty coming into play or a Coffin Purge in their hand. Those are the two lines that beat us. Okay, so they're going to grief us here. And we're going to lose the... I don't know what we lose here. Probably the Force of Will, but it doesn't really matter, I don't think. So we might be able to win this one still. We just need them to not cast an Archon of Cruelty this turn. Please do not put an Arcana Cruelty into play. They're going for the 7 cards. They really want it. That's not good for us. See, if I win off this line, I'll look like an absolute genius. But if I lose, I'll look like a bit of a clown. So, let's see how we go. They're targeting themselves with this unmask. The Iona. Okay, so this is bad for us because they can name blue. Hopefully they'll punt and name white. So I can't remove their guy or something. They can name black, where I can mill my deck but nothing happens. That'd be sad. I think we've lost this one. What are they naming? Blue. Yep. I think we can scoop this one up. So, if we'd have counterspelled the Animate Dead, we might have been alright, but we basically have to try and win the game with the Stoneforge Mystic. I kind of went for the high line there and was punished for it. The sort of high risk, high reward line. But I don't think if I counterspell the Animate Dead and our opponent then untaps and casts Faithless Looting, I don't think we're going to be able to kill them with a Stoneforge Mystic in the time that they get to put a big fatty into play. Obviously, Cauldron can attack relatively well into a Grizzlebrand because it can't block it, but they get to attack on the backswing, so they just wouldn't be able to draw cards the first time, but they can just race us with a 7/7 lifelink at that point. So I'm not upset with the choice I made. Like, it obviously had some significant downside, but yeah, sometimes it doesn't work out. All right, on to the next round. Okay, on the play for this round, I don't really like this hand. We've got a dead Narcomoeba unit, so we can mull to 6, and the same hand is just as good. So it's basically a free mulligan. I don't particularly like this hand. We don't want the Dread Return in it, and double to Fairy and no other real business isn't good for us. This is fine. We have Island Ponder. We have half a combo. We have 2 cards that we're very happy to put back on the bottom of our library anyway. This one can only get an island. Can't get the plains if we want to get basics. But we just want a classic Island Ponder. What do you got for us? Show us the Squidly. We do not want any of these. Yikes. The classic Modo shuffler where you shuffle away your one of and you immediately draw it. Okay, a Tropical Island, a Ponder. So our opponent could be on one of these sort of Zenithy piles, could be Alluring. There's a lot of various things it could be. Because it's the Ponder, it's probably not a... it's not going to be a Storm deck because they run the Baubles instead of Ponders now. And they also don't run Tropical Island. So it could be Ad Nauseam Tendrils, which is the lesser played Storm deck. But that does run Trops, I think. Okay, so this is the game we're playing. We have a Daze we can fire off, which we might be incentivized to fire off relatively soon, just for value. But we'll see what our opponent does here. Underground Seed, Tropical Island. These are not lands in fair decks. Baleful Strix. So this looks like an Alluring deck to me. I think I still get planes here. I'm debating whether or not this is worth counterspelling. This Daze is going to get much worse as the game goes on. So I think countering this, which stops them digging a card, is going to be alright. Because this is going to be just a straight 1-for-1. Whereas if I let this come down, then it just replaces itself. And I'm going to look a bit foolish, I think. I guess we play out another fetch land and we say go. We're sort of under the gun here because our hand doesn't do anything. Sure, another owl. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so this is a real deal. Let's try this out. We don't need to get a combo piece because we already have it, so we can go and get a cheeky little Cauldron Complete here. I think we... Do we want to play out our land or we're going to hold it for a Batterskull? Not a Brainstorm. I think it's better to hold this for Brainstorm because we don't need that many cards to win the game with this deck. Like, we don't need that many mana to win the game. Like, our combo costs 3 mana. So I think having this just to make potential brainstorms better. Like, we already have one card we want to get rid of, but we might want to get rid of another one, because I'd rather have a business spell than this island at the moment. Our opponent doing an end of turn brainstorm without a fetch hand makes me think that our opponent doesn't have a removal spell in hand. You know, desperately looking for one to get rid of this Stoneforge. The bug decks probably aren't the best at answering Cauldron Complete. Lots of green sources. Okay, so they have the Allurin here. And they have the combo. So this is, if you don't know, this basically bounces itself every time and creates an infinite loop. So we are done. They get to go through, as long as they don't go through the Tomb of whatever it is, the Tomb of Annihilation, as long as they don't go through that dungeon, they can go through any of the other dungeons infinitely with Allurin. So, not great for us. Okay, so they look like they were just straight bug here. So, what do we want? The Force of Negation counters Allurin, so I'm down with that. These Blue Blasts don't do anything. The Flusterstorm doesn't really counter their things. They're creatures and an enchantment. This helps fight counter wars, but that's about it. The Swords to Plowshares can interrupt the combo, and they're also going to have Uro in their deck, so I don't hate that. So, Days on the play is very nice, though. The Teferi is going to give us the ability to just have our counter spells work. So maybe we're dropping Ponders and a Step Through here. Yeah, I spend a lot of time thinking about cutting Ponders. I think I spend a lot of time watching Storm streamers, and back when Ponder was in the decks, it was often one of the things they cut in sideboard. That's probably how my brain's thinking here. We've got like a combo deck. We want to keep our bits and pieces together. So Ponder's a thing to go. All right, let's submit this. This hand kills on turn 2 with a bit of protection. So we want to go and get the Tundra here, I think. This way we have the Days if we need it, but we also get to cast our Nomads. So now our opponent's thinking, oh, our opponent can just kill us on the following turn. That's got to be on our opponent's mind. The Uncracked Blue Delta is awkward because it means this Days isn't actually going to be a hard counter spell here. So I think we try and wait for our opponent to tap out. Scalding Tarn, and we just get attacked for 1. Our opponent plays Allurin. We can't win at instant speed, but we can mill our deck at instant speed. But if we have the Thassa's Oracle in hand, we would be able to win at instant speed, because Allurin is a symmetrical effect. We want our opponent to tap out this turn, but they are probably a Thoughtseize deck, so that's not going to be the best for us. Okay, so cracking this. It looks like they might just be casting a 2-drop here, which would be nice for us. Yeah, this does not impact what we're doing. Excellent. So we play this. We play Cephalid Illusionist with the Days in reserve. Okay, so we just had it and we get to win. Excellent. Game 3. Do I want anything different here? Nope, just give me more of those hands, right? That seemed pretty nice. There is an argument as to how good the Cauldron plan is going to be in this matchup. Is this one of the matchups where we don't really care for the Cauldron? It does beat through all of their little Death Touch guys. No, I think I like this. I'm going to submit again. So Swords of Plowshares, and the Cauldron plan with a bunch of lands. I think we should mulligan. Yikes, we have to mulligan this. Don't really want to go lower than this. I think we just bin off these two. So done. So we can sit on a Swords of Plowshares and we can Wizard Cycle when the time comes. Our opponent isn't going to necessarily kill us quickly. They can kill us on turn 4 or turn 3 if they have a mana dork. But we're not under as much pressure compared to the previous combo decks we've faced. Okay, this is a good draw for us. I think we do play out the Tundra here. Our opponent shouldn't be messing with our lands within an Allurin deck, as they have random like one-ofs of something. Can't even think what that would be. There's a Saga. Okay, I like this. We play the Saga out. This will give us the Shuko in a few turns. So we can kind of have a guilt-free Stoneforge. If this doesn't resolve, we get to play the Edge of the Saga game while holding up Source to Plowshares. The Cauldron complete. And a Brainstorm. So we kind of need to make sure our Source to Plowshares is held up all the time so we can kill the Acererak in response to its trigger. So that they don't get to use the one Acererak to go off. But when the Urza Saga pops, we should be able to win the game. If our things can resolve, that is. We have quite a lot to be doing with our mana. We have the Cauldron complete that we're interested in getting into play. We also have the Wizard cycling. So I think it depends what our opponent does a little bit. I think what we really want to do is draw a Cephalid Illusionist so we can put the Cauldron in and not have to spend a turn step throwing. Plague Engineer. Okay, this is fine. So this is going to name Cephalid. It's a cool name, so that stops my Cephalid dude. Okay, the name of Wizard. Yeah, that's just as good. Doesn't really make much difference either way. We have the Source to Plowshares for this guy though. Okay, we have a Force of Negation. This makes me much more inclined to just jam the Cauldron this turn. Because we might need the Source to Plowshares for a for their combo. If I Source to Plowshares this and they combo us, I'm going to feel pretty bad. So we'll just put them on a 4-turn clock with this. And we can still go get Shuko here. We have the Force of Negation to counter the Alluring. So we have two ways of interacting with their combo. And we can use this for mana on the next turn because we have the other islands. So we can use 1/2 mana to Wizard Cycle, use the other 2 mana to play it and go off. So we have options here. So this is going to return a permanent to my hand, I think. So this is most likely going to bounce our Phyrexian Germ token, I would imagine. Yep. And then they're going to beat us for 2 here. We might as well preserve our life total here. Try and swords this. I don't think this is the thing they fight over, but it might be. Right. The Daze is an excellent card to draw here. Wizard cycling. Cephalid Illusionist. We go for it here. If they have a removal spell, we have the Daze. If they have the Force of Will, we get 2 cards out of their hand at least. This is only +1/+0, so this won't do a great deal here. But we're still covered against their combo. I think we have to go for it there because basically everything in their deck is just full of cantripping guys. The idea is if you get a lure in these guys, you can just cantrip your guys into one another until you eventually hit the thing you're looking for. Misty Rainforest. We could have just used the Daze here, but maybe I should have just used the Daze. I don't think my opponent's going to be running Spirit Guys or anything. Maybe I just wasted an extra card that I didn't have to waste. We're not casting this, right? All the Shukos. I assume they're just going to put their guy under the bus here. Get the trade. No, they did not get the trade. Interesting. So just quickly Shukos to this guy. So we can send 2 2/2s next turn, which is better than sending a 3/2, I think. Alright, that is better than what I'm doing. Stoneforge Mystic with a Shuko. Not as good as Ure. So the fair plan is not looking like it's going to go anywhere. Yeah, kind of wish I'd have dazed that previous play instead. 2 cards in hand. Do you have it? Okay, so we're always yielding to these. We put the Narcomoovers in play. So milling until we hit the Cabal. Okay, we're going to keep going until we hit the Cabal Therapy to check, and hopefully that will come up before one of our important cards. So we managed to win the match there. I think I did make a misplay with not using the Daze then, because I could have kept the card, the thing in hand. All right, well, we won the round, so I think we're going into the final round 2 and 2. We're on the play for the final round. We have a hand that has 2 dead cards in. So whilst the rest of the hand is pretty good, I think we should throw this one back. This hand would be relying on our days, on our ponders to be doing a lot of work. And we'd bin off the Cauldron. But ponders do have the ability to do a lot of work. And we can play a Saga's game here. I think we keep this and bottom the Cauldron. It's a bit slower than I would like though. We can't afford to be wastelanded off of blue. So we're going to crack this for a basic island. And then ponder. Got more lands. We don't really want more lands right now. Cabal Therapy. That's not a great one, truth be told. Monastery Swift Spear. Good old fashioned burn. Maybe I should. I'm not sure if I should have counted that with my days or not. It's difficult to say. Okay, so we have the combo in a few turns. We have another days here. So I would like to keep the Illusionist on top. We don't need another days just yet, I don't think. So put the days, then the land, then the Illusionist. We'll not shuffle the library. We'll play this out. This exposes us slightly to Price of Progress, but what we can do soon is use this Cabal Therapy, target our opponent, and name a burn spell, and maybe save ourselves 3 life along the way. So we can definitely afford to daze as well. A Goblin Guide. The top card of my library is a land, so this is good. Chain Lightning. We can just pick that one up. So they're getting 4 this turn, which isn't a huge amount. And we do get to draw a nice land. Means we get all the cards on the ponder. We didn't necessarily want all of them. Sure. So next turn we have the win. So what we need to do is survive another turn. So I think we just play out this island. That lets us play around Price of Progress doing too much damage to us. It lets us hard cast the days. I think we're okay. We're quite a healthy life total here. We also can Cabal Therapy our opponent if they don't tap out. And if they do tap out, we can Cabal Therapy them naming Fire Blast. Because that's the thing they can cast for free. Monastery Swift Spear, sure. So they're inclined to play all their spells out right now. If they have them. Okay, we're just taking 4. Just a casual 4. No, thank you. So we have the combo with Days back up now, so we are fine. I'd like to add mana with this, and then we'll go and find Shuko, because why not? We can play this out. We can go and get Tundra here. We can cast the Nomads, and the Nomads lets us play instant speed in case there is any sort of weird trickery going on. So here we are. Let's keep milling our library. We have an Archimedes in hand, which means we're going to have to sacrifice one of our guys, but we have the Shuko as well, if needs be. I don't see what our opponent can have here. They do get to see our whole deck, which is nice for them at least. Okay, so now we've just been in the final cards of our library here. And we'll cast Dread Return, targeting Thassa's Oracle. We'll sacrifice Narcomoeba, and Nomads. And the trigger wins us the game. Excellent. Let's go on to sideboarding. So, mono red. Finally, these Blue Blasts and Hydro Blasts are going to be worth their weight in gold, which is nice. I think Prismatic Ending is it any... I'm trying to think if they're going to have anything that can mess with us that isn't a creature. So we probably want the swords here. And Flusterstorms are probably going to be better than Force of Wills here. So probably boarding out the Force of Wills. The Daisies certainly on the play are going to be a bit subpar here. So that's quite a clean cut. So we've just got a bit of removal and some counter spells here. Now we want the Prismatic Endings for some of their creatures. Maybe that is a thing we do want. So we might not have time to do all this pondering. And we don't need blue cards for Force of Will because we're not about that for this game. Also, the main thing that we win with, once we've got it in play, we don't have to do loads of loops of something that's going to trigger Eidolon, so we can get through that quite nicely. So we'll submit like this. Cephalid Illusionist. Ponder. So basically missing a card. I think we have to mulligan this one. Okay, this has a turn 3 kill on it with a little bit of interaction, so I think we can keep this. I'm not sure that Teferi is going to be doing us a lot of work here. Let's get rid of that. So I suspect we probably lose this one. Okay, so now we wish we had the Teferi here. I wasn't expecting Burn to be playing the ley lines, but that's okay. They mulligan quite aggressively to it, so we're going to have time to find it. They got the 1-drop. They do have the 1-drop. Sure. I wouldn't mind like a Venser in this deck, in the sideboard to Wizard Cycle for, actually. That might be quite an interesting one. Okay, they drew us a land. Don't hate that. Now we need to find a Teferi. But first things first, we need to kill this guy. We don't have the ability to pay 4 for this. Number of colours cost, yeah, sure. So yeah, we don't have a 4th colour to pay the ending on that. So we're going to need to find the Teferi we shuffled away. Probably should have kept that over the Brainstorm. If our opponent is just on spells to try and deal us damage, then it's going to take them a while. Repeatable damage is just much better. Okay, so we have a Flusterstorm that we can use here. And a Brainstorm, so I think we just pass the turn. We can use them both to generate Storm if there's something particularly scary. I'm assuming this is just going to be like Bolt to the face. Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind about that. A Lava Spike. Do I care about a Lava Spike? I'm going to cast Brainstorm first. Not really what I want to see. I don't think we need the Shuko and the Nomad, so put this back. And one of the fetches. Then we let this Lava Spike hit, and then whatever the follow-up is we can hit if there is one. There was not one. So in our upkeep, we can cycle here to clear the land. I think that's what we want to do here. Let's Wizard Cycle for Cephalid Illusionist. If we get another Wizard Cycler, we can get the Thassa's Oracle in hand and mill ourselves and do it that way. Okay, so I'm going to draw for turn. Okay, I just want to play out this basic island, I think. Don't want to give them too much food for their price of progress. Now, if they draw a creature off the top, I'm going to feel a little bit foolish. But I'd rather not commit any. So I can counter this Lightning Bolt if I want to. I don't think I need to. I think it's better to counter. If I have one counter spell, it's better to counter the thing that's going to get me here. Rift Bolt. Okay. A Brainstorm. We're definitely going to cast this Brainstorm. So if we have Wizard Cycle now, we can actually win the game, but that isn't what happened. So we have a Red Blast, which is nice. We have Swords, is probably the least exciting. So we don't want the Tundra. We probably don't want the second Illusionist here. So we can play this. We can crack this. And go. We don't have another island to get, actually, do we? We have to get a Tundra. And I think we Brainstorm. No, I don't think we Brainstorm again here. I think we Brainstorm in their turn in case we need to generate Storm for Flusterstorm. Okay. The Flusterstorm can't hit any creatures they play, unfortunately. Eidolon of the Great Revel. That is certainly one of the creatures they can play. We have to hit this now. They can't Fire Blast us because they don't have 2 mountains, so we're going to cast this now in case we draw the thing that lets us win the game. That is one of the things that lets us win the game, isn't it? Not this turn, unfortunately. So we need one more turn. So let's cast this guy. White, blue, blue. And we bounce this now. Because if somehow our Teferi dies, we would rather that was not the case. So we have a Hydroblast available. They have 3 cards in hand. So they have Eidolon of the Great Revel. This is something we're going to Hydroblast, I think. So if they have land, Lightning Bolt, then we're dead. Okay. Land, Lightning Bolt, Hydroblast. No, they need 3 cards, wouldn't they? So we're okay. So this makes us white. This from the blue mana. Save targets. Always yield. Always yield. And that makes your life a lot easier to resolve this. So here we go again. Our whole library in the graveyard. Our opponent could have some sort of graveyard thing here, but we have a Flusterstorm, so I think we are fine to counter anything our opponent does. Fairy Macabre would be good, but you don't see a lot of Fairy Macabres these days. Dread Return. Target. That's Oracle. Sacrifice these 3 creatures. Put a bit on the stack and win the game. Alright. So that's the end of that. Cool. Alright, let's have a look at the deck. So, how did I find this deck? Honestly, really good. I think there's not a lot of wiggle room in it. The combo takes up quite a big chunk, and you know you have all your tutors and things. But I think having a wizard that bounces something. So maybe that little one that the Allurian player was playing. The one that can make a bird, draw a card, or bounce a non-land permanent. Maybe that would be worth having if it's a wizard, just so you can wizard cycle for something to bounce, like a leyline or something, just to make the step through a little bit better. So you could just put one of them in the sideboard. That'd probably be better than like the 3rd prismatic ending, maybe, or the 3rd sword. So, or maybe even one of the blasts. Sort of somewhere along that spectrum is what I'm thinking. You might be able to just make things a little bit easier on yourself. I don't think you'd want that main. You'd probably cut to Teferi if you wanted a main deck bouncy thing. But the fact that your combo pieces cost 1 and 2 is really nice. Sometimes you just get people. I don't think the backup plan of the Cauldron is very effective in the 60 card version. I know people play the Yorion build. I've certainly played against it enough. I think that one can have a much better backup plan, but it is a slower deck. Because it's an 80 card deck, you can't just turbo look for your Illusionist. And also, if you play the 80 card version, you have to click a whole lot more when you do your combo, right? So why would you want to do that? Got to be the 60. Yeah, I think Urza Saga, I think is genuinely one of the best cards for Legacy we've had for a long time. It's opened up so many avenues, whether it's fetching Grindstones or Shukos. It's opened up the format in a really nice way, in my opinion. And it also makes non-blue decks have a really cool thing that they can do that's on the power level with a lot of the blue cards. Obviously, this is a blue deck with Urza Saga, so kind of having your cake and eating it, really. But I did enjoy playing this deck, and I think it is quite strong. I'd be interested to know when the Cauldron is going to be the thing you want to be doing. Obviously, I mainly played against sort of combo-y matchups today, where I play against like Doomsday and Allurin. What else did we play against today? I can't remember now. But we did play against Reanimator, which is basically a combo deck as well. So we played against not a lot in terms of fair decks, and like Burn was probably like one of the fairer decks we played against, and that's not particularly what anyone would describe as sort of your normal thing of fair deck. It's just a pure clock. But yeah, I think this deck is very good. I would certainly play it again. I think there's definitely room for sort of slightly tuning it to your playstyle a little bit in terms of like some sideboard options, and maybe you can trim on some of the tutors, perhaps like the Stoneforge Mystic. Maybe you could trim on that, and also maybe trim the Cauldron out. Just as a thought, I think I would actually prefer Batterskull rather than Cauldron, because the Batterskull buys you a lot more time because of the lifelink. So it might be worth having that. Obviously, the Cauldron is a faster and more impactful threat when it comes down. But I think the ability to stall a game out with the Batterskull is pretty good. And also, it's a card that you can realistically cast. So that's just a thought I've had, maybe. Could be wrong. I don't know. I'm sure people who play this deck have tested it. The sideboard, we used all the cards in the sideboard at varying times. So that's nice. We got a nice proper view of everything that's going on and everything we can do. I'm not sure you need 2 underground seas in this mana base. It just seems a little bit unnecessary to me, because I understand you can sometimes hard cast a Dread Return, but I don't necessarily think that's a thing you ever really want to be in a position to do. But I could be wrong. I guess there are situations where you have no Cabal therapies available and you just have this Dread Return, and for some reason you can't brainstorm it away. Let me just check the text. Return target creature card from your graveyard, so you can't even use it to get other people's cards. So maybe, I don't know. I just feel that you are possibly opening yourself up to being a bit weaker against things like Wasteland by having the 2 underground seas. But again, people who've played this deck more will have a better idea than me. I didn't really play against Wastelands today, so my opinion on that is a little bit moot. And we do have 3 basics, and the combo wins off of 3 lands, so that's good. But yeah, so I think that's about all I can say about this deck. I think you could take this deck to a high-level tournament, and if you run right, and, well, you have to run right with any tournament, but I think this is a thing that you can take and expect to do relatively well with. Seems quite tight on the list, and if you get the reps in and know sort of when you need to hold shields up and not for certain matchups and things, I think you can get a little bit more of an edge. But yeah, I don't have anything else, and you should play this deck. It's called Cephalid Breakfast, which is a great name for a deck, and it's really fun. It's a blue-white deck that's fun, so I think people should give it a go. Alright, that's me done for today. I've rambled a little bit, but I think all I've got to say now is please subscribe to my channel. I would really like to hit 1,000 subscribers by New Year's. That's my target. That's what I'm going for. So if you know anyone who's interested in legacy content, I make 5 videos a week, so that's plenty of legacy content. So just sort of send them my way, give them a link and see if they're interested. And the more subscribers I get, the better. And it means it's going to be easier for me to make more of this coverage going into the next year. So this is kind of like a trial period for me to see how well I can do in the first, before the New Year's, in terms of getting subscribers up. All right. Once again, thank you for watching, and goodbye.